I feel compelled to explain to you because a lot of you have raised questions along the lines of why is it that progressives in this country are more concerned with protecting illegal aliens than they are their own citizens? We are a year removed from the signing of the Laken Riley Act, one of the first pieces of legislation signed by the president and passed by the Congress after Donald Trump got elected. Laken Riley was a nursing student murdered at the University of Georgia by an illegal alien who had come in under the Biden administration, bounced around New York City, had been in and out of jail. They never deported him. He made his way to Georgia and he murdered Laken Riley. And also, even in Athens, Georgia, a very progressive city, was in and out of jail for stuff. And the left never wanted to deport him. We just had a situation near me where an 11-year-old girl was held at knife point with her 10-year-old sister. The girl was raped by an illegal alien who had come in under the Biden administration. This happens all the time. And the irony here is that there are now more progressive white people dying to protect the illegal aliens than there are illegal aliens dying in the custody of federal immigration authorities. And it's all exceeded by the amount of Americans who are the victims of crime from illegal aliens. And yet the left says that statistically illegal aliens are less likely to commit crime, which isn't actually true because it's a crime to come into the United States. They say it's not, but it actually is a federal crime to unlawfully enter this country. What is unlawful entry? To come across the border of the United States without the prior permission of the federal government. That's a crime. It's a misdemeanor the first time, and the second time, and the third time becomes a felony. There are civil penalties. And the left says it's a civil penalty issue. No, there is a civil penalty, but it's also a misdemeanor. But they have concocted stories. They say undocumented. Actually, many of them are documented when they come across the border. The federal government law calls them illegal aliens. That's where the phrase comes from. It's not a pejorative racist term. It's derived from the federal statutes. An illegal alien is one who comes into the United States without the prior permission of the United States to be in the country. Many of them, most of them, in fact, are documented. They're not undocumented. They're documented and then released into the country under Joe Biden's policies, where 11 million of them came over. In 2023, 3 million alone flooded the border, came in, and those are the documented ones. There are some undocumented ones who got away without checking in with Border Patrol. What is going on here? I want to explain this to you, and I want to explain it to you by using a piece of video. This is Cameron Karski, I believe his name is. He is a progressive activist. He was one of the theater kids, and he himself described himself as a theater kid, which tells you everything. He's a progressive student at Parkland High School in Florida where the shooting happened. He's become an anti-gun activist. He's the one who now thinks he's going to run for Congress and claimed that Donald Trump was part of a global sex trafficking ring on CNN until Scott Jennings helpfully told him, you may want to change your mind on that, and he had to retract it publicly before the president sued him. He's in the thoughtful sense of he says what all the other progressives say and believes what all of them say and claims to be a deep thinker progressive. And he kind of gives light into the mind of why progressives focus on helping illegal aliens and believe they're loving their neighbor by protecting the illegal alien criminal, not the American citizen who might be a victim of the illegal alien. Listen to this.
The gun lobby is constantly shifting the blame from themselves to the individuals who perpetrate the violence. This is why I was vocally opposed to the shooter from my high school getting the death penalty. It was not because I think he is a good man. It is because we blame individuals and not the systems in place that allow these things to happen. But the shooting at my high school was not solely due to one human being. This was a person who had had several reports with law enforcement saying that he had expressed violent intentions, and he was still able to legally purchase an assault rifle at 19 years old.
So you're saying the culpability goes beyond him?
I don't focus on the evil of human beings. I focus on evil in systems. And if we do not address the systems that lead to this violence, we are never going to be able to solve it. Killing the mass shooter from my high school, first of all, I don't think the state should have that power. Second of all, that is not going to fix the problem. And we love to blame it all on the individual and not the things in place that allow them to exist. But
You got that? So he supports abortion so these people don't exist, but then he doesn't blame individuals, he blames systems. And that is increasingly what the left says. And by the way, there is an angle here for conservatives and Republicans when you engage with the left. You need to ask them not just can men become women, but are individuals responsible for their own actions? And increasingly, the left believes that you, me, every single other person, we are not responsible for our own actions. We are parts of systems and classes of people. So if a Hispanic man joins the Border Patrol, what the Hispanic man is doing is he's acting outside his race. He's acting as if he's a white man. And the left will tell them you're never going to be accepted by the white man. The white men in particular, but also Christian white women who are married in this country, are the oppressors. The further away you are from that, you are the oppressed. And the left now believes that the oppressed class of people have virtue and morality, and the oppressors do not. And so they begin a fairy tale to explain their thinking of why illegal aliens should be protected. And many of them at the basic level, on the ground, perhaps the Alex Preddies and others, they don't necessarily believe these things, but they've arrived at the conclusions to defend the illegal aliens thanks to the indoctrination of those who do. The starting point you have to understand is that the progressive left believes that the United States is a country built on stolen land. And if we are built on stolen land, the land itself, the nation itself, is illegitimate. Second, the people who stole the land and built the illegitimate nation built it on a racist system, and racism is woven into the system built on stolen land by the white oppressors. The solution is to tear down the system. Next, the non-white people are now oppressed by the white oppressors who stole the land and embedded into it a racist system. Fourth, crossing the border into the stolen land inhabited by the racist white occupiers is definitionally not a crime, because the precipitating crime was the stealing of the land and founding a racist system on top of it. The people who are moving into this system are not colonizers, therefore they are allowed into the land, as the history of the Western Hemisphere had people cross over across Alaska, come down and spread out, and many of the people who are there now are the descendants of the ancestors who were colonized. So they have greater claim to our land than we do. Then they say now that so many illegal aliens are here, they can't be deported, because to deport them would be a complicated mess, and also the people who would be in charge of deporting them are the white oppressors on stolen land who built a systemically racist nation of land thieves, so they're not capable of deporting the right people. The only ones who can be deported are the ones who came here and committed further crimes once they got here, thereby showing themselves to disrespect the land. That's the mythology the left has created to justify defending illegal immigrants. Essentially, the left, through Joe Biden, said that the border was sealed. They lied to everyone. Then, when it was shown by plenty of people the border was not sealed, they said there was nothing they could do. Congress itself must act to seal the border. The president does not have that power. Then when Donald Trump sealed the border without Congress doing anything, They said, well, there are too many illegal aliens in the country to get rid of them now. We can't get rid of all the illegal aliens. There are just too many of them. It would be unfair, and it would wreck families. It would tear down the economy. Who would pick the cotton? Who would take care of our grandparents? It would ruin local economies. And also, we're a systematically racist nation on stolen land. So who has the moral right to remove these people? You can't argue with that logic because it's not logic, it's insanity and emotion. And that is where the left finds itself. Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, suggests that we're at a Fort Sumter moment. What Tim Walz failed to recognize in his statement is that that would put him on the side of the Confederacy. And it's no surprise the people who want a serf class of illegal aliens in this country to pick their cotton and take care of their grandparents descend from the same party that defended slavery. The fact of the matter is, if someone has arrived in this country without the permission of this country, definitionally they have committed a crime and they are not supposed to be here. What the left has decided, though, is they've elevated the morality of these people because they're the least of these. And they quote those lines from Scripture about the least of these and taking care of the least of these. And that they twist the Scripture. Even Satan can quote the Scripture and take it out of context. Jesus also said to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. He said to respect the laws of the land. The only time you don't respect the law is when the law of man disrespects the law of God. And so what they then fall back to is, well, the laws of man are disrespecting the laws of God because we're a systemically racist nation and racism is sin. Therefore, it negates everything else. They've worked themselves into this ideological insanity on this issue. And now when you see that there's an 11-year-old girl who's been raped by an illegal alien, well, it's because of the systems of oppression. And we need to understand it's the systems. The individual himself is not culpable. But now that he's broken this law, maybe we should deport him. Not throw him in jail now, but deport him. It's a madness. So how do you defeat it? One, ask the question, are individuals culpable for their own actions? Two, it is a federal misdemeanor crime to come into the country illegally. Why must we require someone commit a second crime to be deported? Let the left answer those questions. They struggle with just those very basic questions. The border got flooded by the Biden administration willfully, intentionally, and by design. And now that so many people, 11 million in the Pew Research estimate, crossed the border during Joe Biden's tenure in office, the left says there are too many for us to possibly be able to deport them all. So now here comes Tom Homan and says, well, let's start with the criminals. Let's start with the people who get arrested for DUIs, the people who are otherwise detained by law enforcement. And what is the fallback from the left? Well, we're not going to cooperate and help you do that. And then they won't cooperate and help keep the protesters away while the federal government enforces those laws. I want you to be real clear here. The position of the left right now is no different from the Confederates who were protecting slavery. They want to nullify federal law, say they will not help carry out the federal laws. When asked to do so, they wish to protect the illegal aliens, and they wish to preserve a system of serfs in this country to provide cheap labor for this country. That was the position of the Confederates before the Civil War. The fact of the matter is illegal aliens definitionally came into this country committing a crime by crossing the border. The left should recognize that we don't want law breaking. And I will say again, I think what happened to Alex Preddy was a tragedy. He should not have been killed. It was a tragic situation. He had been disarmed. Border Patrol agents shot him after he had been disarmed. But had law enforcement worked in Minnesota and actually done justice, they would have arrested Alex Preddy over a week ago when he was smashing the back of a Border Patrol car with his foot. And he wouldn't have been there to be shot this past Saturday. When law breaks down, it's not just the feds coming for and rounding up illegal aliens. It's that a lot of people who, for their own safety and protection, should be arrested and put somewhere and held to calm down, don't. The law is the law. If you don't like the law, you work through the Congress and the courts to change the laws or change the interpretation of the laws. You don't obstruct the law. But on the left now, they believe the law is illegitimate because it was created by a bunch of white oppressors who stole land and wove together and stitched together a systemically racist nation. They have concocted every excuse for themselves to ignore the law. We're either a nation of laws or a nation of the mob. And what we're seeing in Minnesota is progressives have decided that we should be a nation of the mob. And I ask them, when next they take power, because inevitably at some point they will they still be okay with mob rule, or will they demand that their laws be honored? And if so, why should anyone listen to them if they're not listening to the will of the American people through their lawmakers who voted to deport the illegal aliens? And they're not going to have an answer other than they've decided they're the virtuous ones. And when you look in the mirror every day and see yourself as the virtuous one, well, that's what Hitler and the Nazis do. And the left is so busy comparing all the people they don't like to the Nazis, they can't even see that. Thanks for watching. If you want the full rundown every day, text Erick to 33777. That's ERICK to 33777 for the show notes and updates. Stay informed, stay engaged, and please keep the faith.